Hello and welcome to Encore. Coming up in this week's cinema show, director Tim Burton's back with a true-life caper. Big Eyes is a tale of painting, marital discord and a serious art scam. We check out the cybercrime thriller Blackhat. Director Michael Mann creates a nightmare scenario in which hackers strike across the globe. And we while away the afternoons with Nicole and her best friend with You're Sleeping, Nicole, a Canadian portrait of a young woman and her never-ending summer. Film critic Lisa Nesselson is in the studio with me to take us through it, so let's get started. Hi Lisa, thanks.
Hello Olivia.
Hey, now we're just getting started with this latest offering from Tim Burton. The word quirky has definitely come up a few times in relation to this director, but this story is truly bizarre. Big Eyes, tell us more.
Quirky is very much the right word to use. I could use fancy film talk to elaborate on this movie, but I'll just say I loved it. I had a grin on my face, I think from start to finish. It's based on the incredible, truly incredible true story of Walter and Margaret Keane. Now, we all know the art world is full of intrigue, that really fine artists starve and people with not a lot of talent are very successful, and they make names for themselves. And in this case, the name belonged to Walter Keane, but every last canvas was actually painted by Margaret, except nobody knew that at the time. The story takes place in San Francisco, starting in the late 1950s. The period recreations are truly fab. Let's take a look.
You are the only living soul I can tell my secret to.
I painted every single one of them. Every big eye. Me. And no one will ever know but you.
You're gonna love this stuff. Why are their eyes so big?
The eyes are the windows of the soul.
That's why I paint them so big. I've always done it that way.
Why are you lying?
Sadly, people don't buy lady art.
The painting says Keen. I'm Keen. You're Keen. Smile.
Well, this idea of relinquishing the credit for her work, I mean, it's not very feminist, is it? Is it something we could see in 2015? I don't think so.
Well, what's interesting is that Margaret really was very feminist in her inner feelings, because in the 1950s she picked up with her daughter and just left her husband and thought, well, I'll make my living with my paintbrush, but she was really plunging into the unknown, and she had no intention of fading into the woodwork. It's just that she was under the equivalent of house arrest once this lie sort of took hold, and she was cranking out paintings while Walter, who was very glib, was hobnobbing with wealthy people and appearing on television and claiming that all of this was his work. And once that lie was set in stone, there was absolutely no way to go back and unravel it without having their whole empire collapse. Here's Amy Adams, the director, and the woman herself to tell us more.
Being unsure if she's going to be able to support her daughter on her own, and, you know, he's right. He is more charismatic, and he is a better face for the work, you know.
In America, there's a certain kind of cultural structure and sociological structure to things that made it harder for women to kind of, you know, be individuals.
Help other people who've maybe are in an impossible situation, and help give them the courage to speak up and to do what's right if they're doing something wrong.
So amazing to see the actual artist there talking about the film. She seems to have come through it fine.
When I went into the theater, I had no idea she was still alive. I'm very happy she is. I'd like to say that a lot of my French colleagues just don't get this movie, and they think it doesn't have Tim Burton's typical auteurist touch. Of course it does. It's the material itself that's Tim Burton-ish, and it was written by the same duo who wrote possibly Burton's best movie, which is Ed Wood, which was Johnny Depp playing the real-life director who is affectionately referred to as the worst director who ever lived. So he's made, in these two instances, really good art about really bad art.
Yeah, really good true life stories there. Now, moving on to another new release, this time director Michael Mann. He's taking us into the virtual nightmare that is the film Blackhat. This is a vision of the world as one large computer system, which then, of course, you know, means the whole network is vulnerable to hackers. Lisa, is this as terrifying as it sounds?
If you stop and think about it, it's super terrifying. If you combine this with the NSA surveillance that's revealed in the documentary Citizen Ford by Edward Snowden, and this, it's a remarkable remarkable that, you know, we can go about our business and not be worried. The French title is Hacker. That's probably because people don't necessarily know that Blackhat is an evil hacker. So as in black hat bad, white hat good. And in the analog era, if you think about it, criminals sort of had to get their hands dirty. If you wanted to rob a bank, you had to pick out a ski mask or a stocking and, you know, have weapons to brandish and go in and take people's money. Now it is possible to just siphon it out of bank accounts if you know what you're doing. And Michael Mann is very interested in cybercrime. Like all of his films, this is very, very well researched. So even though it's an adventure thriller, everything in it apparently could pretty much happen.
Okay, well, let's just take a look at how complex that is, because there's quite a lot of issues in there. We've got a short extract. Let's take a look.
Some hacker is hitting our financial markets.
Is he political? Terrorist attack, any declaration?
The guy we're working will drop the big hammer and not think twice about it.
He's on the move again.
Chicago, no China.
This is only the beginning.
He's still writing.
What for?
Well, we can see the main actor there, Chris Hemsworth. Now, he's someone who's better known for playing the title role in Thor, that big swashbuckling action caper. Not exactly the same kind of character as a computer hacker, and certainly not the same physique. How does he handle the role?
He handles it very well, because just because he happens to be an incredibly handsome, muscular specimen doesn't mean he can't project intelligence. Brain and brawn can go together. And to prove that, if you see him in the wonderful Rush, where he played the real-life Formula One race car driver, James Hunt. And by the way, since I come from print journalism, I was very happy to see that there is going to be a use from now on for magazines and newspapers, because he wraps them around his torso to make an improvised bulletproof vest.
Ingenious.
Here's the man himself and the director to tell us a little bit more about this real-life scenario.
I asked one particular hacker what you know, does he feel like he has an upper hand, or does he look at the world differently due to the knowledge he has? And he just started laughing. He said, "Man, people have no idea what's going on, or what's possible, and or what could happen."
This is the world as we live it right now. This is the world this is our human condition. These are our circumstances. Even if we aren't aware of it, that in the interconnectedness of all things, you know, our lives are kind of like we're swimming in an ocean of interconnectedness and data.
Definitely delving into dystopian scenarios there. Now, on to something much more cheerful. It's time for your pick of the week. You flagged up this Québécois film called Tu dors, Nicole, or You're Sleeping, Nicole. It looks quite an unassuming, charming little black and white number. It's quite intriguing. What's it about?
That's exactly what it is. Charming, and that word that we're not supposed to use about Tim Burton anymore, quirky, really applies. It's sort of a series of little incidents. One summer, the title character is a 22-year-old woman who's just very relaxed about her future, and she and her best friend think they're going to take a trip to a colder clime because it's very hot where they are. And she works in a thrift shop, and for some reason is unclear on the concept that if she sees a garment that she would like that was donated, she should pay for it on the way out, and can't believe it when she gets fired from her job. She gets her first credit card in the mail, but is really unclear on that concept too, that you do eventually have to pay for something that you charge. It's in beautiful black and white, and it's just a lot of fun. Let's take a look.
Ça va ou non? Ben, je sais pas, je te suis. Ben, moi aussi, je te suis depuis tantôt. C'est vraiment ça, notre été?
Salut Véronique, salut Nicole.
Salut Martin.
Qu'est-ce que vous faites?
On s'entraîne pour les Olympiques.
Es-tu malade?
En fait, je dors pas super bien.
Tu sais, Nicole, je veux juste que tu saches que moi, je suis pas pressé. Fais tes affaires, va où tu veux.
Well, just hearing those accents, you realise you don't see a lot of Québécois film around. I mean, is it having a moment?
Well, last year at Cannes, there were 4 Canadian films, 2 of them French-Canadian, 2 of them Anglo. Xavier Dolan's Mommy, which of course has swept the world and gotten enormous attention. This one, and then David Cronenberg's Maps to the Stars and Adam McGoyan's The Captive. And speaking of accents, that 10-year-old boy with the very deep voice, it's because his voice changed prematurely.
Oh, right, okay. It's not a Canadian thing. Now, moving on, we're finishing off with director Nagisa Oshima's film Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Now, this film was originally released in 1983. It takes place in a Japanese prisoner of war camp and stars David Bowie in one of his earlier films. He's one of the rebellious inmates. Now, this is getting a re-release in France at the moment. 30 years old. How does the film look today?
It still looks very, very interesting. And David Bowie then is now, you can't take your eyes off him. He really has a low-key charisma that you can't put your finger on. It was the film debut of the composer Ruichi Sakamoto, and I think everybody knows the soundtrack to this. Anyway, Nagisa Oshima, this was his first film where any of it was in English. A lot of it is. And he's my hero for a film called In the Realm of the Senses, which you should see 3 times instead of seeing 50 Shades of Grey once. And while we're talking about movies, of course, David Bowie has a son named Duncan Jones who grew up to be quite a fine film director in his own right.
Indeed. Well, that's one definitely to look out for on re-release. Well, we'll leave you with a clip of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Remember, you can get more culture news on our website. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. Lisa, thanks so much for being with us, and thank you at home for watching. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
You have been found guilty on all charges. The sentence will be carried out without delay.
I don't need that.
The blindfold is for the firing squad, so they don't look into your eyes as you die.